Hi, welcome back to KY Connect. Today we hear from Nicol from South Africa. Nicol used to be an ex-colleague of mine and has now started his own consulting practice. Let's hear from Nicol.
KY, I'm astonished that when I sit in meetings across the continent, which is Africa, which is a diverse continent with multiple cultures, religions, and various backgrounds, how I can be the only one that is speaking or listening, but multiple messages are heard. So KY, I have a question for you. How do we ensure stakeholder alignment when there are multiple stakeholder parties involved?
I think Nicol's question highlights the importance of effective communication, especially across cultures. When I think of Nicol's question, I'm thinking of a profession that requires effective cross-cultural communication. I'm thinking of Kyle. Kyle is an international school teacher in Shanghai and often have up to 8 or 10 nationalities in his class. So let's learn from Kyle, how can we communicate effectively cross-culturally? So you've heard the question from South Africa in terms of cross-cultural communications. So what are the tips that you use to make sure that your students from different cultural backgrounds understand what you're teaching them?
I would recommend three simple tips. The first would be just really making sure that you speak clearly, pronouncing your words clearly. Number two is really keeping simple words and trying to avoid any jargon. And if you do use jargon, explain it before you move on to the next thing. And the third thing would be getting my audience, or my students in that case, to repeat back to me in their own words what they think that I said to them.
Wow, I like that 3 tips. Okay, so let's talk about jargon, right? Because sometimes when I think I'm using quite a simple word, but then it may not be so simple to the audience, right? So how do you determine if something that you think is simple, but then somehow you feel that it's not landing well with your audience? How would you know that?
One really easy way is just to be always looking around the room and looking at the faces of the people that you're talking to. If their face kind of starts to show that, like, maybe I don't know what you're saying, they'll usually show that on their face and you can tell.
Another thing is, a lot of people who are looking at KY Connect, they work in a corporate environment. So in a corporate environment, we don't get to meet people for the whole day. So they are much more shorter meetings, right? Whereas in a school, obviously you have a longer time with the students. So of the 3 tips that you shared with us, if there's one that you would recommend for people in the corporate environment, which tip would it be?
I would recommend getting feedback from people you're speaking to, getting them to say back to you what they think that you said. That's the quickest, shortest, and easiest way to make sure that they understand what you're saying.
Right, seeking feedback and confirmation. I really like that tip. All right, thank you for joining me on KY Connect, Kyle. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Kyle highlights why effective communication is so important. Communication often breaks down because research shows that what we communicate constitutes only 7% of what is being understood. 93% of what is understood depends on how we communicate. So my advice to all of us to be improving our communication skills is this. First thing, you can try to get verbal confirmation along your meetings. Secondly, summarize. Summarize either at the end of the meetings or along the way. And finally, you can have some fun along the way by doing mini quizzes or polls to check for understanding as you go through your meetings. So, my tip for all of you today is this. Check for understanding along your meetings to be more effective in cross-cultural communication. Best of luck, and I see you again on KY Connect.